Now, amidst the surge in global crude oil and gas prices, Sensex crashed over 2,000 points, 2,100 points today, while the Nifty was down over 450 points. This coming after Iran struck key energy facilities in the Gulf, sending Brent crude oil above the $110 per barrel mark. Sensex dropping by over 2,100 points, while the Nifty slipped below that 23,150 mark intraday after logging gains for 3 straight sessions. At around 2:20 p.m. today, Nifty was trading down nearly 3% or over 650 points. Markets in India crashing with Brent crude oil prices surging above the $110 per barrel mark. Indian markets continuing to get battered. Stocks across the board, across sectors, crashing in the aftermath of global crude oil prices surging, especially after Iran attacked energy facilities in the Gulf and across the board. Indian markets continuing to bear the brunt. Bear in mind, if all of you watching this broadcast are still invested in mutual funds, it's important that you stay patient and not panic, because these are global volatilities that are impacting your mutual fund investment and your stock market investments as well. But for the day, for all those of you who are tracking and keeping score, Sensex crashing by over 2,200 points and the Nifty too slipping down nearly 3% intraday. We have my colleague Shweta Kothari now joining us live from the newsroom. Shweta, we've been having many a terrible day in the stock markets, and today would be certainly one of the worst, even by the standards of what's been happening over the last 2 weeks or so.
Absolutely. In fact, Krishna, 3 consecutive days of starting in the green. The Indian markets are now finally reflecting a sad reality unfolding in the Middle East by the virtue of the volatility. And as the war continued to intensify, we are looking at 12 trillion rupees being wiped off from Indian markets in just a short span of last couple of hours. In fact, at 2:20, as you mentioned, Indian markets were down about 2,200 points. Sensex was down about 2,200 points. At the close, it was down about 2,100 points. At its weakest, Sensex was down about 2,400 points. It's just a bloodbath that we're witnessing here as far as Indian markets is concerned. But the same sentiment is being reflected in Asian markets, in US markets and markets around the world. And it's absolutely got to do with what's happening as far as Middle East is concerned, where an energy crisis continue to expand as Iran is now vowing to retaliate for the strike that Israel and US carried out as far as this LNG oil, gas field is concerned. So that retaliation is now spanning out with many key targets in the Gulf at the center, which have currently been alerted, where Iran could potentially impact. As both of you and I know, and as investors know, that markets don't like volatility, and this is volatility at its worst. I'm going to take a leaf from what you just said from your book, that markets, as volatile as they are, they're currently not in the bear markets. So Indian markets are not bear markets technically yet. So it's essentially the advice that we are hearing from a lot of experts is that one needs to stay invested. We don't know when markets will recuperate. It's all got to do with what's happening in the Middle East. So, but for now, the advice is to stay invested. Just as of today, in a single day, Indian investors have lost 12 trillion rupees.
Shweta, also we are at lows that were once seen in the year 2024, if I'm not mistaken, May 2024, and possibly the post-Trump election lows that the world markets hit in Feb 2025. So we're already at nearly a year and a half lows. So, whatever your portfolio is, you've gone back to that. So there's going to be a lot of time in terms of Indian markets catching up with what's been lost so far, even when the war ends.
That's right. There's going to be a lot of catch-up in the subsequent weeks and months to come. But everything hinges on the war that's currently playing out in a big way, in a big fashion there as far as Middle East is concerned. It's important to point out to our viewers, Krishna, that the war seems to be entering the second phase now, where key gas facilities, oil refineries are expected to be impacted. The Indian markets also bear the brunt of the choke on Strait of Hormuz, with Brent currently at about $110 to $112 per barrel, and that volatility is expected to continue as the Brent crude and the prices of the crude oil escalate further. We're looking at, ramifications playing out not just in Indian markets, but broadly on every Asian indices. And the suggestion, of course, is that all of that will be recuperated in time to come, but there is no end in sight just as yet as far as war in the Middle East is concerned.
Truer words have not been spoken, Shweta. There is no end in sight at this stage. That's all we can say. It's important to stay invested, to not panic, because as far as today is concerned, as Shweta and I were discussing the final numbers coming out, Sensex for the day down 2,400 points, and the Nifty closing just above the 23,000 mark, 23,002. So markets, after being down at around 2,200 points for the Sensex in around 2:20 p.m. today, by 4 p.m. Sensex down nearly 2,500 points, 2,496.89 points. That's 2,500 points, closing at 74,207. And Nifty falling 775.65 points, closing at that little over 23,000, 23,002.15. So terrible day as far as the stock markets are concerned. Not the best day to look at your own portfolios. Do not look at them, not today, not tomorrow. Leave them be. This is all about playing the long game, especially in these times of crisis and war.